Ever feel like, you're just a tiny cog
Sure.
in some giant chaotic machine,
Mm.
like the world's spinning faster and crazier, and you're just trying to keep up?
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
you're not alone. And luckily for us, there's this ancient Chinese philosopher, Zhuangzi,
Yeah.
who offered some surprisingly relevant wisdom on navigating chaos with grace.
Mm-hmm.
We're diving into his writings today, specifically an excerpt from the chapter called Free and Easy Wandering, paired with a look at Brooks Siporin's translation of his complete works.
And that title, Free and Easy Wandering, it's not about like booking a flight to some remote mountaintop.
Okay.
It's about cultivating a mental and spiritual state that's unburdened by rigid beliefs or fixed perspectives.
Okay, so less about frequent flyer miles,
Yeah.
more about freeing your mind.
Yeah.
Got it. But how do we actually do that?
Well, this chapter is a cornerstone of Taoist thought, and it emphasizes the limitations of human perception.
Okay.
Zhuangzi argues that judging things as inherently right or wrong is often arbitrary and depends entirely on your point of view.
It's like that classic optical illusion. Is it a vase or two faces? Depends on how you're looking at it, right?
Exactly. And Zhuangzi uses this brilliant metaphor to illustrate this point. The peng bird.
Yep.
Imagine this massive creature with wings spanning miles, soaring effortlessly on currents of wind.
Wow.
Now, picture a little dove, fixated on finding a few grains on the ground.
Okay.
The peng bird, from its vast perspective, might look down and wonder why the dove is so focused on those tiny, insignificant grains when there's a whole sky to explore.
So the dove isn't wrong for caring about its grains.
Precisely. It's just a limited perspective compared to the expansive viewpoint of the peng bird. And, you can see this play out in everyday life, too. Think about colleagues who get bogged down in office politics. They're so focused on those immediate concerns that they miss the bigger picture of their careers, their overall goals.
Right.
That's the dove, laser focused on the ground. The peng bird, meanwhile, is thinking strategically, keeping their eyes on the horizon.
It's not that the little details don't matter. It's about not letting them obscure the bigger picture.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And Zhuangzi encourages us to cultivate that peng bird perspective, that ability to zoom out and see things from a wider, less limited viewpoint.
So we're thinking big picture, like the peng bird. But there's another thing about this Zhuangzi fellow that always throws me off. He's obsessed with transformation, like everything changing all the time. Which, okay, sure, the weather changes, my plans change, but he takes it to a whole other level.
It's true. Zhuangzi is captivated by the idea of constant flux. He describes cicadas transforming into snakes, snakes dissolving into dust. This endless dance of change is central to his philosophy. And he's not just talking about the natural world. He sees our identities, our beliefs, our very sense of self is constantly evolving too.
Okay, so everything's in flux, and clinging to fixed ideas causes suffering. It's like trying to hold on to water. The tighter you grip, the faster it slicks through your fingers. I get it. But honestly, that can feel kind of overwhelming. Like, if nothing stays the same, what's the point of even trying to hold on to anything?
That's a perfectly natural reaction. But here's the thing. Zhuangzi isn't suggesting we resign ourselves to chaos. Instead, he offers a way to navigate this constant change with a sense of ease. He calls it going along with things, or as it's known in Taoism, wu wei.
Wu wei. Sounds way more Zen than my usual approach, which is more like, if it's not on my calendar, it's not happening.
Okay.
But I'm open to trying new things. So what does this wu wei look like in action?
Imagine a skilled swimmer. They don't fight the current. They don't try to swim against the tide. Instead, they learn to work with the water's natural flow, riding the waves, moving with ease and grace. That's wu wei. It's not about being passive, but about aligning yourself with the natural order of things, adapting to circumstances rather than resisting them.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this connects to the whole free and easy wandering thing. It's about finding that sweet spot where you're not rigidly controlling everything, but you're also not just drifting aimlessly.
Right. Exactly. It's about cultivating a certain fluidity in your thinking, a willingness to adjust your course as needed. And this doesn't mean you give up on your goals or values, but rather that you approach them with a sense of openness and adaptability. Remember the peng bird. It's about having that expansive perspective, that ability to shift your viewpoint, to see the possibilities that emerge when you let go of rigid thinking.
So embracing change, riding the wave, becoming one with the flow. I'm getting the feeling that Zhuangzi wouldn't be a big fan of my 5-year plan. But seriously, this idea of wu wei, it's challenging. Because if everything is always in flux, if there's no fixed right or wrong, how do we even make decisions? What becomes the basis for our choices?
That's the beauty of Zhuangzi. You've hit upon one of his central paradoxes. He doesn't offer, easy answers, neat little formulas for living. Instead, he prods us to question those very assumptions, the need for certainty, for rigid definitions of right and wrong. He might say that clinging to those fixed ideas is precisely what prevents us from truly seeing the situation as it is and responding with the fluidity of Wu Wei.
Okay, I can see how getting stuck in my way or the highway thinking would definitely cramp your free and easy wandering style. But still, if we're not using right and wrong as our compass, how do we navigate? It's like he's asking us to walk a tightrope with no safety net.
Perhaps the safety net is an illusion to begin with. Zhuangzi's point is that the ground itself is always shifting. Those fixed points of reference we cling to, they might provide a false sense of security. This doesn't mean making decisions becomes arbitrary or random, but that it requires a different kind of awareness, a sensitivity to the nuances of the situation, an openness to different possibilities.
So instead of approaching a decision like a multiple choice test with only one right answer, it's more like jazz improvisation. We've got our instrument, our skills, but the melody emerges in the moment based on how everyone's playing together.
That's a wonderful analogy, and it highlights another crucial aspect of Wu Wei. It's not about isolation, but connection. Just as the jazz musician is attuned to the other players, Wu Wei invites us to be present to the interconnectedness of things, to see how our actions ripple outward and impact the world around us.
So less rigid planning, more mindful responsiveness, less me versus the world, and more how do I move with the world. It's challenging, thought-provoking stuff. We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. The limitations of perspective, the power of transformation, the art of Wu Wei. Any final thoughts for our listeners as they head back out into their own ever-changing worlds?
Remember that sense of wonder you felt when you first encountered the peng bird, soaring through the vastness of Zhuangzi's imagination. Cultivate that expansive perspective, that willingness to question, to adapt, to dance with the unexpected. It might just be the key to finding your own version of free and easy wandering, not as an escape from the world, but as a way to move through it with greater grace and ease.
Beautifully said. And on that note, we'll leave you to wander freely with these ideas. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the fascinating world of Zhuangzi. Until next time, may you find your own ways to ride the waves of change and embrace the flow of existence.